Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me for part 2. So we're going to carry on with making the top dome, and I've just got this piece of card which I'm just turning in my hand just to make it a bit more malleable, because we want to try and manipulate it so that we can actually fit it to the semicircles that we cut out in the first video. So I'm just going ahead and using masking tape to attach that piece onto the semicircles, and then that way we can make the dome of the top of the telephone box. So I'm just going to start cutting off some of the excess, but I'll check it fits before I do that. And it does, and you'll see me do this a couple of times actually, just to make sure it's 100% correct. So I'm just doing it again one more time, and I'm making the final cuts now because I'm certain it's going to fit onto the trim. And there you go, it's a decent fit. So now we're going to start using the masking tape to actually fit it around the trim of the telephone box, making sure that you obviously don't fit it to the door. So I've just moved the door out of the way so I can attach it to the trim. So now what we're going to do is just attach the top part like that, so that we get sort of as much as possible a seamless dome at the top, and make slits in the masking tape where you need to, just so that you can actually shape it properly. So just check that the door still opens, and mine does. Obviously, we want to make sure we haven't attached any of the masking tape to the door. And this is what it looks like. So the door opens, we've got the trim there, we've got the dome sitting nice and pretty at the top. Those are our 3 open panels, and that's the back of the telephone box. So guys, this is where it actually gets quite fun. You start painting. So I did 2 layers of red paint, but it's up to you how many layers you want to do. I'm only going to show you 1 layer just to save time on this video, but go ahead and paint the inside and outside as well. I decided to paint the floor of my telephone box in black. So now we're going to move on to the inside of the telephone box, and we're going to focus on that small little black square. I'm not sure what that houses, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and just measure it out. I think mine was 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. You can make yours bigger or smaller if you want, depending on the scale of your telephone box. Once you've got your measurements done, you're then going to cut it out, and you're going to bend it into shape and sellotape around it. I then went ahead and just used a black marker to make it all black. We're going to go ahead and move on to the black rectangle that has the telephone box and the floating shelf on it, and just make it according to the size of your telephone box. So I can't give you full measurements, but yeah, and then I painted that in black as well using the marker. Then the final thing we're going to move on to now is a floating shelf that has the yellow pages on it. So I just have a bit of black card, and I'm just measuring it along the rectangle for size. And then we're going to use the glue to stick that and the black box down onto the rectangle. Once that's done, we're going to just put it aside and let it dry. This is a fun part. We're going to move on to the window and the individual window panes. So do you remember that piece of card that I told you in the first video to keep hold of? and this is why it's important. I just got a bit of plastic, a see-through plastic that I got from the range, and I'm just fitting it to size, making sure that it will fit in the window. And then I use some masking tape on top of the cardboard just so that it doesn't move when we start applying the red lines to mark out the window panes. I'm going to go ahead and get a red marker and just start painting a big strip on a piece of A4 paper. And what I'm going to do is then get a Stanley knife and just cut thin strips down, and I use the markings on the ruler to help me indicate the size of the strips. They're not going to be exactly the same size, but roughly the same size is good. And then what you're going to do is use the Pritt stick, and you're going to then glue the strips down according to the lines that you've got on the brown piece of paper, indicated on the brown piece of paper. And this is quite therapeutic and fun. When you start getting the hang of it, it feels quite relaxing. But I've done the 2 long strips and then the individual window panes as well. And you're going to repeat the process for all 3 panels. Once the panels are completed, we're going to start sticking it to the letterbox itself. You stick it from the inside, just like that. And you might need to trim off any of the excess plastic that's just overhanging. So just go ahead and do that. And then when you're happy with the size, you then use a glue, just put it around each section like that, and then secure your window panes panels onto the telephone box. Once all 3 panels are secured to the telephone box, you should have something that looks like this. We're going to move on to now just creating a bit of depth on the telephone box. So you don't have to do this part, but I thought it looked quite nice. So I just mixed some brown, black and white, and I'm just layering this with a sponge around the letterbox. You'll see I won't cover the letterbox fully, just edges where I want to create a bit of definition. And also telephone boxes, they're not sparkly clean, especially in the UK. It's very rare that they are. So I wanted to give a bit of a weathered look, and that's why I'm doing this. I find that it's better to start off light and then build up if you need to. And this is what it looks like when it's completely dry. So it has that weathered UK street look. We're now moving on to the telephone sign to be fitted on the trim. So I just used Microsoft Word to type out the word telephone. I just used a font that was closest to the actual one on the telephone box. And then I cut them out and went ahead and just fitted it to all 4 trims. Most telephone boxes have a silver handle, so I just use a pencil to draw a very small semicircle, and then I'm going to go ahead and use a silver marker just to paint that in silver and then attach it to the front door of the telephone box. We're quite close to the finishing line now. We're going to go ahead and just sketch out the crown that sits on the top, and I just used an image from Google and just freehanded this. Mine is about 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. And I find that if you just do one detail at a time in each 4 boxes, as you'll see me doing, it's a bit easier that way. You can also just print out an image from online and then stick it like we did with the telephone sign. Once I was happy with my drawings, I cut them all out and then used a gold marker to just colour them in so they're all gold. And once that step is complete, we then start attaching it to all four sides of the telephone box. Once you've stuck the crowns on each four sides, this is what it's going to look like. So we've got the silver handle, we've got the huge telephone sign, obviously we've got the window pane, the individual window pane glasses, and we've got that beautiful red colour and that weathered look that we achieved. So this is basically done, but I am so extra, and you don't have to do the next step, but I did. So I went ahead and used a black Sharpie pen, and I just outlined key areas within the telephone box, as you'll see in the next sort of 30 seconds. I went ahead and did all the signs first, and then I sort of used a black pen to just highlight the sides of the telephone box, the corners, the edges, and I think it makes a difference. Hang around for a couple of seconds and let me know what you think. But yeah, this bit requires a bit of precision and some patience as well, because you don't want the marker to accidentally slip and make a marking on the telephone box that you didn't want to be there. But then if that does happen, you could just use a bit of red paint just to go over that bit. But anyway, let's see what it looks like once it's been completed. So we've done all the marking, and look at the depth on that telephone box. I think it just brings it all alive and just highlights the features of the telephone box. And it looks fantastic. It makes it look more 3D, but let me know what you think. So close to the finishing line, guys. I went ahead and printed out an image of the actual telephone, and I'm just going to now stick it down onto the rectangle. You will see me stick it down a bit lower so that the wires overlap that black box. And this is great because it gives a 3D illusion to the telephone box itself. Once we're happy, we're going to go ahead and stick that panel in the inside of the telephone box. Guys, congratulations if you've got this far and if you've been following along, because you now have a completed telephone box, a beautiful, iconic, cultural, nostalgic bit of British heritage in your home that you've created from scratch. You can leave it like this, but as I told you, I'm very extra, and I did go ahead and actually add extra details. There is a bonus tutorial for you guys uploaded so that you can do exactly what I've done to make it even more fit for the streets of the UK. Otherwise, just leave it as it is. But yeah, I'll show you all of this in the bonus video. See you there. Bye.